You're listening to SM Media. Hi, folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Celtic Report, your SM Media podcast for all things Celtic. I'm Scott McPike. It's a pleasure to be your host as always. Been a few weeks since we've been on. I think the last international break was the last time we did a pod. Lots been happening since then, and it is always a delight to be joined by. I really always appreciate him coming on. Stewart Ross.
Oh, thanks for having me on again. Good to be back.
It's a pleasure, mate. It's always kind of interesting when we do these pods. Where obviously, I don't think we've ever spoke about Celtic defeat. Have we? Like, I don't
No, I
think we
don't think
have.
so.
Like, I don't think so. Like, it, this weekend felt like a big weekend. Like, we'll kind of cover the kind of international break and the kind of Leipzig game before we kind of look at Hearts. But results going the way they did before quarter to eight on Saturday, like that felt like a massive chance for Celtic to put a bit of breathing space between not just Rangers but Aberdeen as well.
Yeah, it all kind of came together on Saturday. So yeah, like you say, it's been not there's nothing to talk about, but yeah, it's all going well. So nothing to complain about as such. And yeah, Saturday was just I think given the kind of way Hearts are going, you're always kind of fairly confident they're coming after an international break. It's a wee bit tricky sometimes, but you think some of the guys would be fresh and um, fairly confident anyway. But obviously, results elsewhere going that way as well. Just set it up nicely, and after a sticky first half, we got there in the end. But we can get into a wee bit more of that.
9 games unbeaten getting into this game in all competitions. Obviously, like the draw in Atalanta, the win against Leipzig, the demolition Aberdeen in the cup semi final. Like this feels like a different Celtic side. It feels like a Celtic side that's beginning to, I think, complete. I think that's probably the best word to describe it. It just looks maybe with a couple of tuning things we'll maybe talk about over the show, but it just feels as if Brendan Rodgers, for kind of this time last year to now, I think he's got what he wants. I think he knows what's this is beginning to him fine tuning the side. I think.
Yeah, totally. I think you're just looking at that Dortmund game aside, everything except from that has been pretty much perfect. And the one draw in the league. But after 12 games, that's not a huge disaster.
Mhm.
So yeah, you just kind of feel we've got that perfect kind of. Was last season wasn't ideal for several reasons, but you feel like you kind of that second season's usually when things start to click into place. Um, and you've got guys who have come in who are starting to contribute more now, whereas last season you had a full summer window where you brought in a whole bunch of guys and nobody seemed to contribute at all. Whereas you've brought in guys over the summer who have made a real kind of difference, and you're just starting to see that come to fruition a wee bit. We're also starting to see it's not just that core up 13, 14, there's probably 16, 17. You can see that with the quality that comes off
Yeah.
the bench on Saturday, and that makes a huge difference in getting these stickier games over the line.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this was the kind of start. Like, obviously, Hearts away coming up, home to Bruges, then we like away to Aberdeen, then away to Zagreb before the Rangers Cup final. Like, there's a lot of fixtures coming up thick and fast. Like, you just look, I think I'm just looking here. Hearts kind of starts like a 10 game period between now and the 2nd of January, so it is very, very busy. Having that kind of squad that we'll touch on over the show is going to be important as well, but. Get into the game on Saturday, obviously. Kick-off time quarter to eight. As we say, Rangers had drew on Saturday afternoon. That meant Celtic could go 11 points clear of them. Aberdeen had suffered their first league defeat of the season, so it was a chance to go clear at the top. Obviously, go 3 points clear. Into the kind of lineup, obviously, it was kind of. I think that's the best Celtic team they can put out. We can maybe debate one or two. But in terms of a kind of fully fit 11, I think that's probably the side Rodgers wants to go with going forward.
Yeah, I would say so as well. Yeah, like you said, there's probably one or two positions where it's a wee bit of a kind of debate. But I think if most fans were picking the best 11, I think that wouldn't be too far off it. And I think that's injuries were a part last season. As we think back to especially the first part of the season last season in terms of the injuries at the back as well. It's been kind of night and day. I know Carter Vickers has had these issues, but again, having the recruitment being a bit more successful over the summer, you've got a guy like Trusty who's come in, and I thought he was again pretty good on Saturday. And you've got somebody like Scales who's continued to improve, but still can't get a shot at the moment. But he's sitting there as well. So I think a wee bit of luck probably, and it'll be a bit too much luck to expect that you're going to get through all this kind of period of games without picking up injuries.
Mhm.
So at the moment we've got that kind of got the kind of your first 11 there. Obviously gives you a huge amount of confidence going into these games because, like you say, it's been a wee bit of a trickier run since the Kilmarnock game. You've got this, and you've got like you say, Aberdeen week on Wednesday. So these are kind of tricky games. So having uh, you're pretty much your full squad to pick from is a pretty much a luxury compared to like say where the squad was this time last season.
And that's obviously, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the fourth time we've seen Carter Vickers and Trusty together. But that was the kind of first time where I felt like together, the chemistry's there. Obviously, kind of similar backgrounds in terms of internationals. They will know each other. They both complement each other really well. I thought that was the first time. I thought Trusty was just outstanding, and he's just beginning to grow from what was a bit of a shaky start. He looks to be the kind of one that's really kind of kicked on in the past few weeks.
Yeah, and he was one that was kind of hard to judge given how kind of shambolic Sheffield United were last season in the
Yeah.
Premier League. Had a good season at Birmingham the season before, but the kind of Championship style of play, Birmingham style of play that season as well. Not on the ball a huge amount. You know, you're going to be on the ball a ton as a Celtic centre back. So he's a hard one to judge. You know, 6 million. That's a fairly significant fee for Celtic.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's really. You could see that even when he was maybe not quite um, kind of struggled those first couple of games. You could still see he had that wee ton of pace. He's obviously got the frame, and like I think it is that good partnership in terms. Obviously, you've got that right foot, left foot. But they've got a kind of good mix. Obviously, Trusted a wee bit taller. He's maybe
Mhm.
got not a car because it's slow, but he's got that. You see, maybe once or twice on Saturday, he gets himself maybe into a wee bit of trouble, or he maybe kind of overcommit slightly, but he's got that pace that it gets him out of trouble. And he's just kind of, I think Roger said he's starting to on the ball, maybe be a wee bit more progressive. I think he was probably playing a bit too safe at times to start with, but I think we've got somebody like Carter Vickers who you tell is still not 100% as well.
Yeah.
He's still kind of managing himself through these games. Um, then Trusty's going to be he's going to be heavily relied upon because you'd imagine when Carter Vickers is going to have to come out at some point over this run of games. It'll be Scales and Trusty, so he's going to have a really big role to play as well. And it's like I say, it's good to see him starting to really settle in now. And you know, Tynecastle's not an easy place for Celtic to have to go at times. It can, you know, it wasn't probably as tough a game as others have had in recent years, but you know what it's like there, physical, and you know Shankland's had his trouble this season, but he's
Yeah.
still that's a good centre forward and puts himself out, clever movement, and kept tabs on him pretty well.
What do you think? Obviously, like you did obviously mention squad rotation, and we know kind of Carter Vickers isn't fully 100% fine tuned yet. Like obviously Carter Vickers, I think is going to play in the kind of big matches, and you've got a couple of games in the next few weeks that I don't think Carter Vickers really needs to play against Ross County, but he probably will play against Aberdeen. He'll certainly play against Bruges, Zagreb, and Rangers. So he will play the big games, but Ross County's maybe a good example. You can maybe put a Scales in there and just. 'Cause I do think there's a difference going from Carter Vickers to Scales, and it's given Trusty a bit more of responsibility. And at this point in his career, does he really want that? I thought he's really beginning to look the part because Carter Vickers is in there to kind of be that commander in that kind of defensive position. I don't think Trusty's that. at the moment.
No. And I don't think you want to chop and change because and again, Rogers has said this a few times. It's almost one position. It's just two players playing the same position. You've got to have that relationship, so you don't want to chop and change a ton. The advantage is that Scales and Trusty have had time together at the start of the season when Carter was injured. So I think it would be, ideally not a ton of games, but I think it's just the nature. We know how many injury issues Carter has had. This is going to
Yeah,
happen. So yeah, it'll just be managing the squad like it will be for the rest of the parts of the team. But yeah, I wouldn't see a ton. You wouldn't want to see a ton, and you'd hope that Cardiff could start getting over some of these because
yeah,
it seems like a lot of these nickels are kind of ongoing things that he's maybe playing through. You're kind of hoping that I think it sounded like he got a wee bit longer than he maybe would have had in the past, just because Scales and Trusty were doing okay. So you hope that in the long run that it's only going to be the odd game here and there, not
mhm.
significant periods of time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But we'll get into the game, obviously. First half, there's not really a lot to talk about. Like it was pretty much Celtic had a lot of the ball, like a lot. They did have a lot of possession, but any time they kind of were dispossessed, Hearts were capitalising on it. I thought Hearts had a few really good chances from kind of counter attacks. I thought the boy Penrice, and I was actually going to ask you about this. If the Greg Taylor situation doesn't get sorted in the summer, he's an option, by the way. He looks like he could be a player who could kick on. I thought, and Johnson did look a bit sluggish, and I think he does have that tendency after an international break. But I thought Penrice was really giving him a hard time in the first half.
Yeah, well, that right hand side's been Celtics. That's where all the goals come. Him and Kuhn. It's probably the quietest 45 minutes they've had this season, and
Yeah, I'd agree
Penrice was
on
a big part of that. I think he was, energy, getting not just defensively, but also offering that threat going forward. But yeah, I thought in general Hearts were, having not seen a ton of Hearts recently, having known the issues they'd went through, Naismith, change of manager, obviously going to kind of back four now. I thought they looked like they had kind of solid structure. I thought the midfield three as well were probably well suited to what they wanted to do in terms of obviously Bellingham, Devlin, Boateng, so probably the most kind of physical,
it.
combative three. And I thought they got after Celtic pretty well in terms of stopping. It was probably a mixture of things. I think the first half it was Celtic probably not moving the ball quick enough, not quite quickly enough. But Hart's doing a good job of kind of shutting things down. But like I say, they're offering a bit of a threat as well with Spittle and Forest in the wide areas. Um, I think probably and when we come at Engels a wee bit and certainly Hatate in the first half, maybe guilty of that. Either not quite the same kind of movement ahead of the ball. I think there's a few times they were getting, feeding the ball into McGregor, but he's then, probably lacking that wee bit of movement further forward. You've seen then in the second half when Hart started to tire those spaces, started to open up and started to exploit it a wee bit more. But yeah, I thought kind of pretty impressed with Hearts for what.
I thought the press was really good in the first half. I thought they
Yeah,
pressed really
loads of
well.
energy. I'd say that midfield three worked quite well. Kind of almost matching Celtic up, and I thought Rose and Kent kind of dealt with most of what was coming in the box. And yeah, Penrice is you know, he's pretty experienced at this kind of Premiership level now, and he seems to have really kicked on at Hearts. And yeah, left back's going to be one to keep an eye on with the whole Taylor situation and contract situation, how that's going to be resolved, and by looking like he was maybe going to be kind of first choice a few weeks ago, and now kind of back out of the picture a wee bit. So, and obviously has a straight loan, there's no option to buy there. So yeah, there's going to have to be whether it's in January or summer, there's going to have to be there'll be there a bit of movement there, one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously getting into the kind of chances that Hearts had, I would say it's probably the busiest that Casper Schmeichel has been and did make a few good saves when you needed to. Obviously, a good save from Penrice and I thought a really good save from Spittle. Carter Vickers made a good block against Forest. Celtic really didn't have a lot of kind of gilt-edged chances. Schmeichel was probably busier. Like, we've obviously been really, really praiseworthy of Schmeichel's distribution and very praiseworthy of just how much he's able to kind of start the build from the back. thought some of the saves he made were very, very good, and you can see not just an upgrade in terms of distribution, his shot stopping is still very, very good as well.
Yeah, definitely seen that at Kilmarnock as well. Probably that was definitely busy as we've been there.
Yeah.
I think Celtic keeper's been in a long time, and yeah, busy again in the first half. What we're talking, I think, I was looking earlier, six shots to two, six hard shots to two from Celtic. Not huge. I think the Spittle ones, I think that was the best chance.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, that, had the header from Maeda, and Kyogo had a wee kind of half chance as well, halfway through. But yeah, that was 24 minutes. Just having a look there again. Yeah, and Hearts were kind of ahead on kind of XG terms up until 5 minutes into the second half, and then kind of Celtic kind of take over from there. But yeah, in terms of yeah, obviously you need much more than that 45-minute, 50-minute performance. But up until that point, I think Hearts pretty, on another day could well find himself 1-0 up. That changes the context of the game. And but yeah, like you say, Michael, again, turning up in terms of not just the distribution, but making some good saves as well. And yeah, it was one you were wondering going into the second half, who's going to get more of the same, or could Hearts kind of keep this up, and couldn't quite. And as soon as that kind of, like, well, kind of two quick goals just kind of takes the game away. But even before that, you're talking Kyogo has that good chance, and yeah, just kind of falls apart a wee bit for Hearts, which from their point of view will be disappointing given that first half performance.
yeah. Well, obviously in the kind of first half, I don't think many Celtic players showed up. And again, I'm not gonna pick on one particular player here. I just think it is important we do have a bit of a discussion about Arnie Engels. You can tell he has ability, right? You're not going for 11 million quid, and you're not a Belgium international if you don't have a level of ability. And you see it in stages. The consistency just isn't there in at the moment. It's very much. I mean, it was pretty much non-existent the first half. There was not many. There's maybe a couple of decent crosses he put in that kind of went to nothing. And apart from that, it's really hard to kind of pinpoint anything he did in the game. And it has been that kind of story so far for Engels. There's been flashes, like even the game against Slovan. I thought he was very, very good. You've seen. I thought when he came on against Rangers, I thought he showed pretty well in the kind of half hour he played, but there's not been enough to say right now that he's justifying the price tag. And I know it's very, very early and he needs time to acclimatise. But where are we at the moment with Engels?
Yeah, it's I think obviously the Bernardo thing kind of adds into the discussion, but I wrote a piece about for Celtic about a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, I think it's that the price tag is always going to be,
Mm-hmm.
you know leveled at him. I'm not worried. I'm not too worried at all, to be honest. I think obviously you don't want to make it sound like it's excuses, but he's a you know pretty young guy who played well. He had played a significant amount of minutes for Augsburg in the
Yeah.
Bundesliga, but didn't wasn't a regular starter. Would probably come on 20 minutes, half an hour once a week, start the odd game. I think he was maybe just double figures starts last season, if I remember. But he's now come into Celtic where you're 2 games a week, high intensity. He's also just become a full international,
Mm-hmm.
so that's a huge kind of change in terms of the load that he'll be, um, going through it each week. So obviously he's going to be rotated. You'll see, I'm sure you'll see that, like say, the next couple of weeks, got home
Do you think we'll
games.
see it on Wednesday? Do you think Bernardo goes in on Wednesday?
I think you still might see him on Wednesday.
Okay.
I think I think he's I think there's a couple of things to that. I think there's probably you know probably have seen the best of him maybe there in these big games in Europe. I think, but I think obviously the person that would come in would be Bernardo.
Mm-hmm.
And as good as he was in Europe last season, his one appearance this season was in the Dortmund game. Everyone probably had a pretty bad night that night, but he was particularly poor. I think he hooked at half time for Hatate, pretty bad at kind of turning the ball over and stuff like that. So, Engels pretty, tidy enough with the ball. You've also got his set pieces, which have been a big part of what Celtic have been kind of good at in Champions League so far this season. So yeah, I would think, given he started them, you know, I think he would have thought, 60 minutes, Tynecastle, 60 minutes, 70 minutes on Wednesday night, and then you can look at taking them out for Ross County or potentially, again, limit the minutes. But yeah, you can, like you say, you can see the kind of technical ability,
Hmm.
sort of the physical stuff as well, which is a lot of what kind of Rodgers talked about as well in terms of that running power and that ability to kind of press the game. That those are the kind of things that, as you're adjusting to a more a demand that's going to take a wee bit of time for him to get used to that. So and those are the kind of things that will show up like Saturday night, where he's maybe started two international games during the break, maybe looking a wee bit leggy, and those are the kind of things that are qualities about him that that can then kind of show. Well, you then look, wait, what else are you bringing to it? And there's no doubt that certainly you, like I said, I was looking at a bit about Bernardo um, for the Celtic way this week, and he was almost as kind of done, thing that says, oh, he's done as much in half an hour's Engel's done in an hour, but it was almost the case, in
Yeah, it
terms
was
of how
even
he,
even the goal as well. And I'm sorry to come in, but even for
yeah,
the goal, is it it's Ida's goal? It's the first goal. Just a wee bit of tenacity that it shows just to
yeah,
attack that space. I think kind of shows that Bernardo's probably a better impact player. Like Bernardo at times can look a bit anonymous. Like the energy's always there, but I think at times Bernardo can kind of drift in and out of game, whereas Engels
yeah,
can
he's got a
be better.
tendency maybe to be a bit too
Yeah,
safe
yeah,
and possession and stuff like that. And you've got to take into consideration the kind of the game state. Bernardo's coming out Saturday night, for example, and there's been other games, this season where Engel started, Bernardo comes on. Um, Bernardo's coming at a game where opposition Saturday night, great example, been knocking their pan in for an hour, 70 minutes, starting to tire, space is starting to open up, and then you've got a wee bit more time in the ball, you've got a wee bit more space to hit. Um, you can flip, if it was Bernardo that started and Celtic have struggled in general, and it's Engels that comes on and plays some nice passes, and it can flip easily. So I think it's worth bearing that in mind as well, not just the kind of context of where Engels is at in terms of still just a couple of months in the door, playing a lot more football than he was used to. But there's also that kind of game context as well, which is impacting this as well. So, um, but yeah, in terms of Bernardo, really impressive with not just, I think, like I said, I think his tendency has been to be too safe, and I think that's what
yeah.
people were questioning about when he signed. Is he showing enough? Is he creative enough, progressive enough? But I think you're starting to see a lot more of that. And again, providing assist for Ida, but just a lot more playing the ball off, maybe a bit quicker, a lot of one touch passes when he come on, and um, really starting to look like he can do that as well as the kind of he's certainly got the running power and the athleticism as well. So yeah, in general about Engels, not massively worried, but you kind of hope that if he can be managed, that he can maybe then start showing. We've not no international breaks now till next year, so
Mhm.
um, hopefully this kind of period of games he's not going to play all the time. He's not going to be expected to play all the time, but that he can settle in a wee bit more and yeah, um, start to see a wee bit more of what he can do.
And it's another thing as well, obviously, like we also need to take into account Bernardo's actually what a year older than Engels. And they're probably like at a similar stage development wise, probably played the same amount of games in their career, roughly. One's 11 million quid, one's 3.5 million. So that needs to be taken into account as well. Like there's probably a lot more kind of forensic look at Engels because of the price tag and because you're maybe not seeing immediately the value for money. That's going to take time. How many players have taken time to develop, especially at that price tag? You see it in England. What do you know what I mean? We're seeing it. I mean, what a great example is probably the likes of like Rodri. Rodri took what 2 or 3 years to really show now, and you look at the City side without him, and they're pretty much half the
Mm.
side. Like it takes time for these kind of big players to develop into those positions. And Engels, I think, will just. I think a game every maybe like a game every 3 days is going to be good in terms of
Mm.
rotating. McCowan's there as well. There's a
Yeah,
lot that can. There's a lot of rotation that can happen in that kind of period.
yeah,
But another player that was maybe substandard in the first half was Hatate. Now he hasn't started the season great, but I thought the second 45 minutes was probably his best version of the season.
yeah. I think he's had that. You get this, you get that's just kind of we know by now, having been here for a number of years, that you're just going to get that in terms of when it comes when things are coming off, then it looks like they're splitting apart. But at times things aren't coming off, then people start questioning again. So I've not been I've been impressed with it. I think he's probably been asked to maybe do more. I think again this comes into the kind of Engels thing that he's not, again, not just the price tag, but also a direct replacement for Matt O'Reilly.
Hmm.
In terms, he was never going to be that. Like we talked about in terms of his age profile, and you're not buying 11 million. You're buying a bit of potential there. But Hatate was always going to have to pick up maybe more of that creative kind of
Yeah.
slack, and I think he's done that for the most part. I think he's been asked to take that O'Reilly role in terms of being the one that will go up with Kyogo and press from the front. So he's taking a wee bit of responsibility there. He's playing full games now where that wasn't happening at all last season, or very rarely even under Ange would that happen with Hatate. So I think Rodgers is demanding a wee bit more from him in terms of maybe being more of a leader in terms of, yeah, and I think Saturday was a good example because it's him that again it's Hearts tired and the space is starting to open up, but it's Hatate that's the one that's got the quality on the ball to to exploit that, and you can see that in some of the passes, the one for Yang, the one for either for the break for the penalty and stuff like that. Yeah, I think he's just one of those players that when he's not playing well, we can see it. When he's playing well, we can see it. So it just kind of he's never kind of because he'll want to get on the ball, he'll want to make things happen. So when stuff doesn't happen, people. But yeah, I think it, like I say, given that kind of context of where the midfield's been at with O'Reilly leaving and Engels coming in and not maybe quite, and Bernardo not being that kind of natural creator, I think Hatate is really important. Um, I think he's going to be a big player for the rest of the season. And yeah, I think again, like I say, Saturday night, it's he's the kind of player that when things do open up, that he's the one that's going to make the most of that.
Into the kind of second half, Kyogo, we'll get into him, obviously, loves this fixture. Forces a really good save from Craig Gordon. I don't think Craig Gordon deserved to lose 4 goals, but it was just how clinical Celtic were in the second half. But it could have been 6 or 7 if Craig Gordon wasn't there. But lovely bit of movement for Kyogo, and it's a good save from Gordon, but he finally manages to get the opener. It's again finishes at the second time asking. Just that movement and IQ that I think just is Kyogo at his finest. Just he's able to respond. Like didn't get a lot of service in the first half, but just the way he's able to feed off scraps in large part of the game, I was really impressed with Kyogo in the second half. I thought it was excellent, and I thought fully deserving of his goal. 11 and 14 against Hearts. Like he must love that game.
Yeah, and I get a wee bit like Hatate maybe just not under the radar. So big players are playing every week, but he's not probably scored as much as he probably should have. He's got to plenty of chances. He's not finished things. That can obviously, you can go easily if you keep getting to the chances. They start going in, and go on a run. There's always, big chances as well in terms of, like, say, that first one. There's a good chance, and he probably, that's great movement against, great touch. You'd expect to finish it, but he comes back for more and he does get his goal. Um, and again, either coming on and scoring two, it's kind of like the Bernardo thing. It's like, well, does that then kind of that kind of drives the narrative that maybe he should be getting more? But I think for me, Kyogo is the number one striker from the start anyway. And yeah, it's good to see him get another one. You can hope now that we're going into a load of fixtures that he can have a wee bit of run the goal scoring front.
Obviously, one player that is certainly hitting the ground running in the scoring front was the guy who got the second goal. Now, I've been very, very keen to see how you've analysed Nicholas Kuhn so far this season, because people are saying, oh, it's down to a root canal, he's fully recovered from that. It's not just that. There's something about Kuhn that's just kicked on, not even one gear at. He's probably up two or three. I think we've got to give a lot of credit to Maeda for the second goal, because just the way he's able to take the ball, Kuhn's obviously on the break, and he's able to find them. Brilliant bit of football, I think, for Maeda to find Kuhn, and Kuhn's away, and just a powerful effort into the goal for the second. In terms of Nicholas Kuhn, 20, I think that's 22 goal involvement so far this season. Probably I think the best player in the league, absolutely. Certainly most informed player. How impressed have you been, and what do you kind of put it down to that he's managed to kick on this season?
Um, I think a bit of that, obviously getting over was obviously an issue when he came in. But then having a full pre-season, having a good pre-season in terms of scoring goals and getting loads of game time. Um, I yeah, I done the scout report on, on him for the Celtic way at the time, and I was really excited about him. So obviously when I had that first kind of 6 months, I was like, maybe it was me, but you could see the pace, you could see the quality, you could see it was a kind of criticism of him last season, and certainly a criticism even at times this season. If you want to be critical, was still maybe a bit too reliant on coming inside on his left, but you could see he could go both ways as well even then. So, excuse me, I just think it was just a wee matter of time. We just needed to get settled. This was a guy that was at Bayern Munich, was at Ajax, was at Leipzig as a youngster. So there was serious talent identified in him at an early age, and for whatever reason, it just hadn't clicked. So to be honest, you see a player that's been at those kind of academies and around, not maybe playing first team, but being picked up by these kind of teams, and it's there's that chance that talent starts to does bubble through, and you're starting to see that now. I think just the pace is a huge thing. I think Johnson as well. I think that relationship's been really important. Having that consistency. I think Johnson talked about it the other day in terms of almost like a revolving door last season for him, whereas Kuhn's really nailed that down. They can start to have an understanding. We've seen, Johnson, like I said, probably not as effective, probably the least effective on Saturday in that first half, but you could see still that doing that, under that overlap, and good kind of relationship that they've built there. I think that's been important to Kuhn too, having someone, he's so reliable, Johnson. So he's got the engine to get up and down as well. So yeah, it's probably didn't expect him to kind of explode like he probably has, but I was kind of hopeful that after 6 months bedding in, good pre-season, that we would start to see some of that talent that you could see from his time in Vienna, and the fact that that he was at these massive clubs when he was a youngster, and he was highly thought about these big clubs as well. And so yeah, really kind of almost for me, just put him to player of the year already. Like he says, it's quite a kind of obvious one. As he stays fit and sticks to anywhere near like the kind of output that he's been doing, then so he's a stick on for that.
I think the scary thing is as well, and I noticed this a lot in Saturday as well. There's times where you like sometimes he can kind of be delayed in making that final pass, and you just wonder if he was able to just do that. Like
Yeah.
it'd be more than 22 anyway. Like he's still been ridiculously good, but I still think there's so much more in there that hasn't even scratched the surface. Like I really think this is an incredible talent we've got here. I think.
Yeah, and I could see you could see that when I watched them before. You could see that there was maybe just that decision making, like you say, maybe just taking one touch too many. But you could see that, like I said, in terms of he's got the pace, he's got the technical ability. So well, if you start putting a few of those other
Yeah,
bits together, then you can see what happens, which is what you're seeing now, which is you know a player that already seen linked to the Premier League, and no doubt that will continue for the rest of the season if he keeps playing like this. And a player that you hope Celtic can enjoy for a wee bit longer, but a player that will go for probably big money as well in the future.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think saying to Celtic fans enjoy him while he's here. Like I think that is I think that's the definitive statement. And the kind of after that though, Celtic obviously 2-0 up, thoroughly deserved, and obviously Hearts. I do think Hearts respond quite well. They do have a couple of chances. Shankland, you can tell, just isn't in form at all because he is the hesitance. I think with a chance that he pulls back, probably last year's Lauren Shankland scores it, but Ralston probably comes the closest to scoring for Hearts up until Hearts' actual goal. But then obviously Celtic again ruthless, lovely bit of football. I think Bernardo's effort here is just tremendous. As I say, just finding that space, that tenacity that I think he's very, very good at. And I know it kind of hits off Gordon, but I think it's a lovely bit of finishing as well. And 3-0, it looks home and hosed.
Yeah, it was, and like I say, that was what it was still probably 10 minutes to go, but it just, like I say, they had little half chances. You thought, well, get one back here, 2-1, could still be a wee bit tricky last part of the game, but just kind of kind of takes all the jeopardy out of it. It's just, we can kind of make a few more changes, just everyone can relax, and yeah, I think won their 4-1 last season, first time at Tynecastle. So, we've been used to going there and winning quite comfortably. But at other times it's been particularly difficult. And as much as Hearts are, like I said before, Hearts not in a great place, Celtic going really well, you're pretty confident. Anyway, you always like it's Tynecastle and you know what it can be like. So, to be 3-0 and home and hose, let's say it, 75, 80 minutes is as good as you could kind of hope for that kind of venue.
Yeah, and obviously Hearts put one back. Lovely strike from Drammy. I think Schmeichel will be disappointed not to get a clean sheet, but I think there's very little he can do with it. Penalty for Celtic, obviously Forrest. Probably a lazy challenge from Grant, but Forrest does really well, I think, just to use his freshness well. Ida puts it away. In terms of obviously Ida, 2 goals in 20 minutes. That's what you want him to do. That's what you want him to come on and score a couple of goals and get that kind of confidence that I think is going to be quite important, especially when you've got this run of games coming up. Like he is obviously another one whose probably price tag is probably meant he's under a lot more pressure than probably should be at this point. But all he can do is score goals, and he scores a double against Hearts. I think he will get a run of games going forward, and it's important he takes his chance, and he certainly did that on Saturday.
Yeah, again, let's say that the price tag again is maybe gonna it's gonna affect how people are gonna judge him. But I think even paying that price, I don't think anyone expected him to come in and be first choice ahead of the Kyogo. I think it was always going to be at least for this season anyway. But other things changed with Kyogo over the summer. Next season, who knows? But certainly for this season, you knew it was going to be pretty much that last half hour, most games start here and there. I think, like I say, there's a good chance he will probably play a couple of games in a row um, over this run as well. But yeah, you don't want him maybe coming on and missing chances, and then when he does start, there's kind of question marks there. But you say it's good that he comes on. He's got opportunities, and he takes them, and that gives you more confidence when he does start because I think like Atlanta away and things like that. There's been games where he started where he's probably not impressed as much as you would have hoped. So yeah, like you said, he's got that coolness from a penalty spot was a huge part of the success last season in the league and tucked that one away really well too. And yeah, again, probably give Forrest a bit of mention too, because
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
like I say, he's fresh, but really intelligent with the way he kind of exploited the space as well. Just looks after the ball so well in that kind of situation, and even Yang too, who's just quietly looking like he's got a wee bit of a chance again from looking completely at the picture at points last season. It's him that's likes to owe the soul, but Rogers is seeing enough to keep him not just involved in the squad, but also getting meaningful game time ahead of somebody like Palmer who's
hmm
sitting at home. So, and I thought he was sharp. I thought he looked kind of sharp as
yeah.
the start as well.
I thought all the subs looked certainly played their
So
part.
yeah, that's again, like you say, it's not just relying on that 12, 13, 14. You've got 16, 17 players, 18 players that you can call on, and that just makes a huge difference. Not only in terms of impacting games, seeing things over the line like Saturday, but like we've talked about rotating when you've got this kind of busy schedule of fixtures too.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, big 3 points. Obviously, second half I thought was excellent. Brendan Rodgers, just a couple of quotes that he said. Obviously, that we went through at half time, they adjusted really, really well, and we could then play through in better numbers and then eliminate the press much better. I think that's pretty much spot on. I think that was the big difference in the second half. And he obviously mentioned something we've mentioned is that they're obviously putting in so much effort and commitment, and that it's just about managing their minutes. And he mentioned he singled out like Tati, Maeda, Kyogo, Johnson, obviously Valley, who didn't get on, Trusty. They've all been away long journeys and international break, and getting them back, managing their minutes. You will see the squad rotated a lot. Like you mentioned, obviously Yang getting that 20 minutes I thought was bright. I thought Ralston come on and just was solid. Forrest can do it as well. There's just McCowan didn't even get on as well. I mean, there's the depth's there now. Like that's the thing. Like last season, that was maybe an issue. Like certain players weren't getting on, but now you look at the likes of Yang and the likes of McCowan, Bernardo. They're all coming in, and they're not in just for a 5 minute cameo. They're coming in. They're actually showing. Listen, we can start if we need to. But that's what you want in a squad, especially when you've got this run of games coming up.
Yeah, 100%. It just seems like you've got everyone. It's not easy to manage a huge squad. I don't imagine like that, but
Mm-hmm.
these guys coming in and being motivated to show that they should be starting, and just having that you know quality of it. It was what was talked about all last season was that was what was missing was just that kind of lack of quality, and in certain areas you've seen that now that like you said at the start about just this maybe being Rodgers kind of that sweet spot of that second season. I think starting to click, everyone kind of pulling in the one direction. No kind of question marks over any what anyone. There should be no one kind of questioning where their kind of places in the squad. I think you've got the likes of Palma and other guys from last season who are out of the picture who are a long way from being back in the picture. So, but you've not got any big question marks over big players or management position things like that. It's just really settled, and yeah, just hope it can. Certainly, this period, it'll be a test, but you couldn't ask to be in a better position.
No, absolutely not. And obviously, the games are coming thick and fast, and it is game number 5 in the Champions League. And it is probably, I would say, probably the biggest one so far. And that's probably the big test is going to be Club Brugge. Obviously, we've seen they're sitting second in the Belgian league. I think 6 points off Genk, who I think have been very, very impressive. Beat Aston Villa last time out. Won 7-0 at the weekend against St. Troiden. So they're coming into it full of confidence. Like Bruges, again, I don't know a lot about them in terms of just kind of running through some of the players that are there. Hans Van Aken, I know Celtic have looked at in the past. Simon Mignolet, obviously formerly of Liverpool. A couple of a good player, Scott Wilson, obviously formerly linked with Rangers. There's some good players on that side, and what we know about Club Brugge over the past few years is a terrific European side.
Yeah, maybe not quite the level we were a couple of years ago, but still really, yeah, really handy, and it'll be a test. Not more so than Leipzig, you wouldn't think, but yeah, I think like I say, it's a test of you know can you go and can you go and put in another performance like Leipzig? It's all right. It's fantastic to do that to take a scalp like that in terms of a top team in a top five league. But that'll be the challenge that Rodgers will be putting to play. Can we go and back up? Can we go and we don't not slip up, but don't then come unstuck against another good opposition that you can go and do similar because they're fantastic. If you can get 3 points on Wednesday night, it's an absolutely fantastic position to be in ahead of the last couple of games. It's not pressure off or anything, but it's you can really see that kind of
Win this, and I think the pressure could be off. I think this is
yeah
we spoke about that kind of 9 point mark. Like getting this win, I think could be massive
yeah
for the next 3 games.
yeah. Nobody's 100% with it being the first time that this kind of format, but 9 points seems to be what's been spoken about, and
Yeah,
yeah, like you say, you get that win, then it is almost kind of pressure off, and you don't want to then completely take it. You've still got some winnable games there in terms of going to Zagreb. They've been good as well. And you've got young boys at home. That should be another game that would be confident going into, and then Villa away would be hopefully by that point you're kind of not completely could well be assured of at least the kind of playoff. So yeah, it should be. I've not watched a huge amount of Brugge, but like you say, the a good one against Villa. I think it was the one where Mings picked up the ball.
yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know what else the rest of the game was like, but that was obviously the thing about that. But yeah, just looking at a team there again, the guy that got was it 4 goals at the weekend?
just get his name. Yeah. Is it
Yeah,
Solus? I think his name
yeah.
is.
I was gonna let you have a go at that
Yeah,
one.
he's Greek
But
anyway. I know that.
yeah, yeah, I think was he at Norwich or something. Yeah,
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
yeah, pretty good. Vanaken, he's really experienced.
yeah,
And Yashari, he was linked to Celtic before as
yeah. He
well.
has. Yeah,
A midfielder. Um, so yeah, another good kind of challenge, but nothing that should be beyond what like I say, that'll be the challenge we're putting down. I mean, we've done this against arguably higher opposition in Leipzig. Can you go and do it again? That's a challenge to back it up. That it's not just one-off games. That you know to go to that next level again in Europe is to be consistent and be able to turn in performances that will get you results against decent quality opposition, which no doubt that Bruges will be.
absolutely. And we will have a post-match video going out on Wednesday night after the Bruges game. There's also on Wednesday we will have the latest edition of Ronnie Dyler's signings that we're ranking. So we're ranking them over the next few weeks. So
They
one to
were
keep an
ranked.
eye on, Stuart. Yeah, some of them were, some of them were. There's a few underrated and a few that go on. One of them played at the weekend, in fact, Craig Gordon. So he'll be popping up next week. But yeah, we
First,
will.
first signing,
Yeah,
first signing, I think, if I'm right.
I think
I
he was.
remember.
Yeah, I think he was. The only play. I think the only Celtic player at that time who didn't sign direct from a club. So there's an interesting fact for you. Craig Gordon, obviously, I think 2.5 years. I think he hadn't played. So yeah, there's a Craig Gordon fact for the day, ladies and gentlemen. But obviously, we'll have a post match on Wednesday after Bruges. We'll be back next week after the weekend game, obviously against Ross County. Always a pleasure to be joined by Stuart, mate. Thank you very much. Enjoy it as always.
No, thanks for having me on.
And
Good
it's a
chat.
pleasure, mate. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all next week for the latest episode of the Celtic Report. Thank you very much.